The discovery and humble beginnings, she planned my downfall. I planned her defeat. The gilded cage of my decade-long marriage shattered not with a bang, but with a quiet click. I'm Adrian Vance, 40, an architect of advanced materials, my fortune now soaring past $750 million, a testament to a mind built for foresight. For 10 years, I believed in the joyous tapestry Sarah, a high-end brand consultant, and I had woven. But as I meticulously planned our milestone anniversary, a chilling truth unmasked itself. Her tablet, a portal to her hidden world, laid bare dissolution papers, meticulously prepared, poised for filing after a global asset hunt. She had gravely misjudged me, underestimating the very strategic intellect that forged my empire, an empire built on anticipating storms before they even gathered. Before I pull back the curtain further on this saga, tell me, where are you watching from? And if you crave more tales of those who refuse to be outsmarted, hit that subscribe button. My roots were humble, a Denver upbringing as the sole son of two devoted educators. Lavish vacations and luxuries were foreign concepts, but my parents poured every ounce of their being into nurturing my mind.
Your mind is the only asset no one can ever seize.
From a tender age, my aptitude for applied physics and engineering was undeniable. While my peers plastered their walls with sports heroes, I was consumed by the blueprint of rudimentary smart manufacturing systems and dissecting material science breakthroughs. My parents, though not fully grasping my fervent passion, championed it fiercely, transforming our humble shed into my makeshift laboratory. After graduating with the highest honors from Caltech, armed with dual degrees in engineering and business, I politely declined the enticing siren calls from industry titans. My vision was fixed on a critical, unaddressed void in sustainable manufacturing. With a $40,000 loan from my parents' retirement savings, I birthed Valor Industries from the cramped confines of my parents' basement at just 23. The initial 3 years were a brutal gauntlet. I logged 16 to 18-hour days, subsisted on meager meals, and faced an endless barrage of rejections from potential clients and investors. I recall the dismissive tone of female venture capitalists who, after my pitch, would ask to speak to my senior engineer or the actual visionary. I was both. Their skepticism only forged a hotter resolve within me. The turning point arrived with cataclysmic force. A major automotive manufacturer crippled by a multi-billion-dollar supply chain disruption. My innovative production protocol, once fruitlessly peddled, became the industry's salvation overnight. Within 18 months, Valor Industries exploded from 3 employees to over 200. By my 30th birthday, my company's valuation soared past $750 million. Today it commands a valuation exceeding $2.5 billion. I met Sarah 7 years into Valor Industries' meteoric rise, amidst the curated chaos of a gallery opening. By then, my name resonated in the business world, gracing the pages of Innovator Weekly and Business Forum, and I was hailed as one of tech's most influential entrepreneurs. She glided toward me at the bar, an elegant counterpoint to the ambitious throng. She introduced herself as a brand consultant, yet she spent the entire evening probing, with what seemed like genuine curiosity, into my work on sustainable innovation, not my balance sheet. Most people here want to tell me about their brilliant, unproven concepts, I remarked. I'd rather hear about yours that actually succeeded, she countered, her smile radiating a warmth that lit up her eyes. Our courtship was a dizzying sprint. Sarah embodied everything I believed I desired, intelligent, driven, and seemingly unfazed by my success, polished yet grounded. 5 months after our first meeting, I proposed during a private hot air balloon ascent over San Francisco, the city that held the memory of our first outing. The red flags were faint, almost imperceptible whispers in the early days. Sarah's quiet obsession with my wealth manifested in small, unsettling ways. She tracked my company's stock performance with an unnerving intensity. She casually highlighted which assets were held in my name versus hers. She subtly steered me towards obscure art investments, seemingly designed to obscure financial trails. I dismissed it all as professional curiosity, never suspecting a darker intent. From the outside, our life was a masterpiece of impeccable design. We hosted lavish dinners for industry titans and Manhattan socialites in our flawless home. We contributed to the right causes, attended glittering galas embodying the quintessential power couple. But beneath the polished surface, an emotional chasm widened between us. In the past year, Sarah's behavior shed its subtlety. Phone calls abruptly ending the moment I entered the room. Late nights at work that evaporated under scrutiny. Weekend workshops with no accompanying materials or agendas. Then, a password mysteriously appeared on her personal tablet. The classic indicators which my logical mind ironically worked tirelessly to rationalize away. I threw myself into salvaging what I believed was our marriage, planning romantic getaways and such. Suggestions of couples therapy, introspection, searching for my own flaws to mend. All the while, Sarah offered hollow reassurances, blaming work stress for her emotional withdrawal. "The Duval account is consuming me," she'd sigh, referring to one of her high-profile clients. "Once it resolves, things will revert to normal." I clung to her words because I desperately wanted to believe them. So, as our 10th anniversary approached, I poured my heart into planning the perfect celebration, a desperate gamble to rekindle a fading flame. It was then that my world irrevocably shifted. Sarah had departed for what she claimed was an urgent 3-day business trip to Paris. With the house to myself, I retreated to our home office, intending to finalize anniversary details. Our shared desktop hummed, its screensaver swirling with cherished photos of our life together. The profound irony of that image would hit me later. I nudged the mouse and the screen sprang to life, revealing Sarah's email inbox. She had forgotten to log out, an uncharacteristic oversight. My initial instinct was to close it, to respect the privacy we had always upheld, but a subject line seized my gaze, freezing my breath. Monaco Asset Verification Valor Holdings. My company's name. My heart hammered against my ribs, ethical boundaries warring with a burgeoning suspicion. I had never invaded her privacy, but why would my company be the subject of an asset search? The email, from a private investigative firm based in Monaco, a notorious haven for tracking hidden wealth, was brief, clinical, and utterly devastating. Progress report attached as requested. Will continue monitoring transfers from primary accounts to offshore entities. Require additional authorization for art holdings. A wave of nausea washed over me as I opened the attachment. It was a meticulous, chilling breakdown of my business holdings, subsidiaries, private investments I'd painstakingly kept confidential, even preliminary vulnerability analyses of my corporate structure. My hands, now trembling uncontrollably, clicked through more emails. Conversations between Sarah and her network of divorce attorneys, discussing precedents in cases involving wealthy husbands and strategies for asset division. One exchange, a gut punch, stood out. A colleague's blunt query, timeline. Sarah's cold, calculated response, after anniversary trip, paperwork ready to file once offshore search completes. The room tilted. Sarah wasn't planning a surprise gift. She was planning to dissect my life, to divorce me only after she had exhaustively mapped every single cent I possessed. The deepest laceration came with the discovery of emails between Sarah and Mark, her assistant. I had genuinely liked Mark, even defended his incessant texting with my wife to friends. They work closely together, I'd insisted, it's professional. The emails burned away that illusion. He still suspects nothing, Sarah wrote to him. Anniversary plans proceeding, cruise confirmed, private yacht in the Greek Isles. We'll tell him about us after filing, once assets are secured. Can't wait to see his face when he realizes he's funded our future together. That villa in Tuscany is getting closer every day. I reread their exchange 3 times, the cold calculation beyond comprehension. This wasn't just an affair, it was a blueprint for a future financed by my very being. In a state of profound numbness, I clicked further, unearthing the drafted divorce petition saved right there on the desktop. Its creation date, 3 months prior, the to-be-filed date, a week after our anniversary trip. The document audacious in its demands, a claim to half of my company, citing her substantial contribution to its growth. Sarah, who had never once played any role in my business. I sat motionless for hours, devouring every email, every document, absorbing the full, horrifying scope of the betrayal. The woman I had loved, trusted, and supported for a decade had, since long before we even met, been meticulously plotting to strip me of everything I had built. The home office, once a shared sanctuary, now felt like an enemy command center. My initial reaction was a raw, searing agony. The physical manifestation of heartbreak is terrifyingly real. My chest felt crushed, an unbearable weight bearing down. I sobbed until no more tears would come, curled on the cold bathroom floor, hidden from Sarah's potential, unexpected return. Then came the relentless waves of self-reproach. How could I have been so spectacularly blind? I commanded an advanced manufacturing company, for God's sake. I protected multinational corporations from industrial espionage. Yet I had failed to protect myself from the predator sleeping beside me every night. The humiliation burned almost as fiercely as the betrayal. Sarah and Mark, their private jokes at my expense. Her colleagues privy to her divorce plans before I was. The inevitable media circus. The tech world dissecting how the brilliant Adrian Vance had been outwitted in his own home. After the emotional tempest, a chilling stillness descended. I drifted through the house like a specter, my fingers tracing photographs of our wedding day, vacation souvenirs, books we'd read together, every cherished memory now poisoned by an insidious doubt. Had any of it been real? Had she ever loved me? Or had I simply been a 10-year investment strategy from the very beginning? I neither ate nor slept that night. By morning, an irreversible metamorphosis had occurred within me. The broken man on the bathroom floor was gone, utterly erased. In his place stood someone colder, sharper, more singularly focused than I had ever dared to be. People often praised my business acumen, my almost supernatural strategic foresight. Now that same analytical mind, honed through years of industrial warfare, turned to a different, far more personal battlefield, the unwavering protection of what was mine. Sarah had made a monumental miscalculation. She believed she possessed every secret, every blueprint to my wealth, gleaned from the intimate confines of our home, my casual conversations, my unguarded moments. But she had profoundly underestimated two things: my intellect and the primal instinct for self-preservation that burned within me when truly threatened. She was about to receive a devastating, costly education on the man she had married. By sunrise, the raw agony of grief had solidified into an unyielding resolve. I seized my phone, my fingers cold against the glass, and dialed the one number I knew I could trust implicitly. "Liam," I stated, my voice stripped bare of emotion, addressing my childhood friend and the loyal COO of Valor Industries. "We need to talk, not at the office, and tell absolutely no one." Liam arrived at a small, unassuming cafe 30 minutes from our usual haunts, a location chosen with surgical precision, a place Sarah would never dream of finding me. As my oldest confidant and the chief operating officer, Liam possessed an unparalleled knowledge of my labyrinthine business affairs and personal finances. I had brought him into my inner circle shortly after Valor's initial success, his financial brilliance matched only by his unwavering loyalty. His expression, initially curious, grew increasingly grim, then horrified, as I methodically laid bare the full, sickening scope of my discovery. When my voice finally trailed off, he sat in stunned silence.
"I never liked her," he finally whispered, his voice raspy. "But even I didn't think she was capable of this."
"I need your absolute discretion," I reiterated, my gaze unwavering. "No one at the company can know, not yet." Liam nodded, then delivered a gut punch that made my blood run cold.
"Sarah's been making inquiries, Adrian, through backdoor channels about your Monaco and Swiss accounts."
My eyes narrowed. "What? When?" "About 3 months ago. I thought it was strange, but she implied you were considering a complex art acquisition strategy and needed the information." The pieces slammed into place with terrifying clarity. The betrayal was deeper, more intricately woven than I had even imagined.
"There's more." Liam hesitated, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Our security team detected unusual access patterns to your company email about 2 months ago. The IP address traced back to your home network."
"Spyware? On my devices, the realization was a venomous bite." "We quietly replaced your work laptop and phone as a precaution," Liam explained, citing a system-wide upgrade. "I didn't want to alarm you without concrete evidence." I took a deep, shuddering breath, the icy realization settling into my bones. Sarah hadn't merely been planning a divorce, she had been actively spying on me, potentially compromising sensitive corporate communications. This wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was an act of corporate espionage, a calculated invasion that threatened the very foundation of my empire. Liam and I spent the next 4 grueling hours in that cafe, meticulously carving out what would become my counter-strategy. By mid-afternoon, we had moved to a clandestine conference room in an attorney's office in a different city, a fortress of anonymity. By evening, a small, elite team of silent warriors had been assembled. Eleanor Hayes, the sharpest divorce attorney in New York, a woman Sarah had once arrogantly dismissed as too aggressive. David Grant, my personal financial advisor, the architect of my original business holdings, and Anya Sharma, a digital forensics expert, a silent assassin from my company's advanced security division. My mission was clear: protect my assets without betraying my newfound knowledge. Any overt movement of funds, any sudden corporate restructuring immediately after Sarah's business trip would signal my awareness.
Eleanor's voice was a steady anchor. Connecticut is an equitable distribution state, Adrian, not community property. That plays to your advantage. Assets you owned before the marriage remain separate if they haven't been commingled. The challenge is proving their unblemished character.
What about Valor Industries? I asked, the core of my life's work. Sarah's filing claims substantial contributions to its growth.
Did she ever work for Valor in any capacity? Board member, advisor, investor? Eleanor pressed. Absolutely not. I was explicit about keeping our professional lives separate. Good. Did you ever transfer company shares to her or add her name to any corporate documents? Eleanor's nod was firm. That helps significantly, but we need to thoroughly document the complete separation between your premarital assets and anything acquired during the marriage.
David, a master of financial architecture, laid out the next phase. Your corporate structure offers strategic advantages. The patent holding company in Dublin, which owns your intellectual property, has remained untouched since before your marriage. The Berlin expansion, which you've been planning for 6 months, provides entirely legitimate business reasons for specific asset movements.
We dissected every account, every property, every investment, exposing their vulnerabilities. Sarah, I learned, had focused her avarice on my international holdings, likely perceiving them as more susceptible to her claims.
Anya's grim confirmations sealed it. My home devices were indeed compromised. Sophisticated spyware, professionally installed, she stated, her voice devoid of emotion. It's been capturing screenshots, recording keystrokes, monitoring communication. Your home is almost certainly bugged.
The sickening truth clicked into place. Sarah's uncanny knowledge of my private business affairs stemmed from this digital infiltration. I had often worked from home, discussing sensitive information over the phone, believing myself to be in the sanctuary of my own space. Can you remove it without alerting her? I asked, my voice dangerously low.
Not without risking her knowledge, Anya replied. But we can feed it selective information while you use secure channels for actual communication.
This became a cornerstone of our strategy, a digital ghost dance, allowing Sarah to believe her surveillance was yielding fruit while my true operations moved through newly established impenetrable channels. Over the next 24 hours, sleep became a forgotten luxury. We refined a comprehensive counter-strategy, a 7-day masterpiece of corporate and legal maneuvers. The plan was a tapestry woven from legitimate business restructuring, planning stages accelerated through proper corporate governance, the decisive completion of the Berlin expansion with appropriate asset allocation for international operations, the ironclad refinement of corporate intellectual property ownership through previously established Dublin entities, meticulous documentation to prove the separate nature of premarital assets, and digital misdirection through the compromised channels while all actual operations flowed through newly secured ones. This strategy demanded flawless execution. I would maintain the facade of a loving husband, oblivious to his wife's betrayal, excitedly planning our anniversary. As dawn broke on the second day, I surveyed my trusted team, their faces etched with the same grim determination as my own. Sarah thinks she's been playing checkers while I've been playing tic-tac-toe, I stated, the words laced with a chilling resolve. She's about to discover I've actually been playing three-dimensional chess all along. The shattered man who had crumpled on the bathroom floor was utterly gone. In his place stood the same strategic mastermind who had built a multi-billion-dollar business from nothing. Sarah had made the fatal error of believing my personal self was separate from my professional self. She believed she had married a successful man who could be emotionally manipulated. She failed to understand that my success stemmed precisely from my ability to channel emotion into surgical, strategic action. The next 7 days would be the ultimate crucible. As I drove home, ready to resume my elaborate charade, a strange calm descended. The searing pain of betrayal had transmuted into cold, focused determination. Sarah wanted a war over assets. I would give her one she was utterly unprepared to fight. The 7-day chess match. Day 1, the Berlin Gambit. The moment Sarah's flight took off for her business conference, confirmed by my private investigator as a lavish romantic getaway with Mark in Monaco, I initiated the first phase. The irony was a bitter tang. She was conducting both her affair and her asset hunt in the same gilded cage. As CEO, I convened an emergency board meeting, citing a fabricated but entirely plausible competitive threat that demanded immediate decisive action. The board, trusting my business instincts which had consistently yielded staggering results, unanimously approved accelerating the Berlin expansion plan. By noon, legitimate corporate attorneys were drafting the necessary legal structures for our aggressive European market entry. By evening, $75 million in corporate assets began flowing through proper, documented channels toward the new Berlin entity. My home office became a simulated command central for this legitimate business operation, knowing full well Sarah's spyware was meticulously recording every call, every email. Meanwhile, the actual strategic planning for her undoing unfolded on secure devices, in locations that shifted daily, leaving no trace. I slept a mere 3 hours that night, my mind a furious storm of strategic calculations and the gnawing pain of personal realization. Day 2, fortifying the crown jewels. Our focus shifted to the very heart of Valor Industries, intellectual property protection. The company's immense value resided primarily in its proprietary manufacturing processes and groundbreaking material science. David and the legal team worked relentlessly with patent attorneys, formalizing and strengthening the documentation proving these invaluable assets belonged to the Dublin Patent Trust, an entity established 4 years before I ever met Sarah.
We're not moving anything, Eleanor emphasized, her voice precise. We're simply documenting what has always been true, but could be aggressively contested without proper paper trails.
That afternoon, I maintained my theatrical performance, calling Sarah, my voice brimming with manufactured excitement about our anniversary plans. Each word felt like shards of glass in my mouth.
"I can't wait to surprise you," she purred, her voice warm with practiced affection, a sickening mimicry of genuine love.
"I'm sure it will be unforgettable," I replied, the double meaning of private, bitter triumph. Day 3, unearthing the foundation. This day brought the most intricate and complex phase, meticulously documenting the organic growth trajectory of the assets I had owned before our marriage. David and his team worked tirelessly, tracing the natural appreciation of investments, the steady rise in property values, and the calculated reinvestment of premarital assets into new ventures.
The key, David explained, his voice low, is demonstrating that the $750 million isn't some arbitrary figure that magically appeared during your marriage. It's the natural, meticulously documented evolution of assets you brought into the marriage as entirely separate property.
Meanwhile, I performed my daily routine, approving routine business transactions, attending perfunctory meetings, and continuing the grotesque preparations for an anniversary that would never truly materialize. The cognitive dissonance was a crushing weight. In one moment I was selecting a sentimental gift for a woman who was systematically betraying me. In the next, I was dissecting complex financial structures designed to protect me from that very same woman. The emotional toll began to manifest. I lost weight, battled relentless insomnia, and found myself staring blankly at walls, lost in a silent scream. Yet beneath the personal trauma, my strategic mind remained a sharpened scalpel, precise and unyielding. Day 4, shielding the sanctuaries. The crosshairs of Sarah's avarice had focused particularly on our vacation properties: Verbier, Nantucket, the Amalfi Coast. All three had been acquired with my premarital funds, but had appreciated significantly during our marriage.
She'll claim that appreciation occurred during the marriage and is therefore marital property, Eleanor warned.
Through painstaking financial archaeology, we meticulously documented that every improvement, every enhancement to these properties had been paid for exclusively from accounts containing only my separate property. Any appreciation could thus be definitively attributed to my separate investments, not marital effort. During this process, a disturbing discovery surfaced. Sarah had been photographing documents within my home office safe when I was absent. The safe contained old financial statements and property deeds. What she didn't know was that these were not my only copies. More comprehensive, complete documentation existed in meticulously secured off-site locations. Day 5, fortifying the trusts. This day brought a critical phase: trust restructuring. Before our marriage, I had established several trusts for tax planning. Sarah knew of their existence, but not their specific terms. Working with my original trust attorney, we meticulously reviewed their structures, ensuring they remained absolutely ironclad against any potential claims. The timing is unequivocally in your favor. These were established well before your marriage, with no contributions during the marriage. Her claim to them is minimal at best and easily defeated. That evening, my private investigator delivered another chilling report. Sarah had extended her business trip by 2 days. Mark had been spotted shopping for exorbitant luxury watches and high-end tech, a blatant indication they were reveling in their pre-divorce celebration, living large on my anticipated fortune. The knife twisted deeper, but I channeled the searing pain into an even more determined, chillingly precise action. Day 6, the sacred and the sentimental. This was, paradoxically, the most emotionally arduous task, despite its entirely legal nature. I meticulously inventoried family heirlooms, documented gifts from before our marriage, and moved irreplaceable items, like my grandfather's cherished pocket watch, to a secure, undisclosed location. This was not hiding. It was protection, a shield against the inevitable, petty disputes over what she might deem valuable. In doing so, I stumbled upon a cache of love letters Sarah had penned during the nascent stages of our relationship. Rereading them now was like peering into a terrifying alternate reality, a world where her declarations of eternal devotion had been sincere. I carefully placed them in a separate box, chillingly labeled evidence of intent, knowing they might prove devastatingly useful in demonstrating the stark, horrific chasm between her promises and her actions. Day 7, the ironclad net. The final day before Sarah's return was dedicated to comprehensive, unassailable documentation. Every transaction, every corporate decision, every asset protection measure meticulously undertaken over the preceding 6 days was now recorded with exhaustive, unimpeachable justifications that had no discernible connection to an impending divorce. My team gathered one last time in a secure, anonymous location, a silent council of war, to review our work. Every measure taken was legally sound, impeccably business appropriate, and flawlessly executed through legitimate channels. We had created no new entities solely for asset protection, moved no funds outside normal business operations, and taken no actions that couldn't be justified by robust, unimpeachable business strategy.
If this goes to court, every single step we've taken is defensible as standard business practice or prudent management of separate property.
As twilight descended on the 7th day, I returned to our home, no longer a sanctuary, but a meticulously prepared stage for the final act of a marriage that had been more calculated fiction than genuine fact. I moved through the familiar rooms with the strange, dispassionate detachment of a phantom observing a life that was no longer his. I stared into the mirror, a stranger gazing back. The man reflected there had undergone a chilling metamorphosis. The naive trust that once softened his eyes had been burned away, replaced by something harder, an unyielding wisdom. I had salvaged my financial empire, yes, but the emotional cost had been a gaping, bleeding wound. Yet beneath the pain, a steel resolve had formed. I was emerging not merely intact but stronger, more self-reliant than I had ever dared to be. That night I sank into a surprisingly deep sleep, the kind of profound rest that only comes to one who is braced for an impending storm. Morning arrived with a deceptive cheerfulness. I dressed meticulously in Sarah's favorite shirt, applied grooming to mask the exhaustion that gnawed at my soul, and prepared for the performance of a lifetime. Every piece was in place. Now, it was her turn to make her move, utterly oblivious that her meticulously crafted game had been quietly, thoroughly, legitimately dismantled before she could even play her first card. Sarah drifted through the front door on a bright Tuesday morning, a vision of false serenity, glowing and relaxed from her Monaco escapade with Mark. She enveloped me in a practiced embrace, the warmth of her body a sickening lie. A small, elegant gift box was pressed into my hand, an expensive scarf, her standard offering after business trips.
I missed you, she purred, her kiss a smooth, poisonous caress on my cheek.
I missed you too, I reciprocated, my own voice a flawless mimicry of affection, matching her performance with chilling precision. How was Paris? I asked, a neutral inquiry masking a deeper burning question.
Productive but exhausting. Endless client meetings. She launched into an elaborate tapestry of fabrications, a detailed recounting of conferences that had never occurred, of deals that were pure fiction.
I nodded, feigning rapt interest, the mask of the devoted husband firmly in place. I've been busy with anniversary plans myself, I offered, maintaining the fragile facade. I think you'll be really surprised. Her eyes, now gleaming with a cold calculation I recognized all too well, held no trace of love.
Actually, Adrian, I have a surprise for you too. I've booked us a second honeymoon in the Greek Isles.
This was it. The very trip whispered in her incriminating emails, the remote, isolated stage where she intended to unleash the full force of her betrayal after ensuring her asset hunt was complete. The perfect location, isolated international waters, ideal for serving divorce papers while minimizing immediate repercussions. The Greek Isles, that sounds incredible, I exclaimed, my manufactured excitement almost convincing. When do we leave?
Next week, private yacht in the North Aegean, complete seclusion.
The double meaning in her words, a cruel echo of her deceit, resonated with chilling clarity now that her sinister plan lay exposed. For the next 3 days we engaged in a grotesque silent dance, a married couple planning a romantic escape while one secretly sharpened the knife to plunge into the other's back. I chose resort wear, debated excursions we would never take, and researched restaurants we would never visit together. Each evening, Sarah made her mysterious phone calls, slipping away to the car or taking long, solitary walks through the neighborhood. My security team's terse updates confirmed it. These were communications with her divorce attorney finalizing preparations.
On Thursday evening, the pre-anniversary dinner, Sarah announced her plans for a reservation at my favorite restaurant. I spent hours preparing, each movement weighted with the knowledge that this might be the last truly normal evening before my world erupted. As I adjusted my tie, a text from my private investigator flashed across my screen. Meeting at Sterling & Thorne law firm confirmed for 3 p.m. document filing likely. Sterling & Thorne, the very firm representing 3 of Sarah's wealthiest clients, now representing her. At precisely 5:30 p.m., moments before we were to leave for dinner, Sarah's phone chimed. She stepped onto the terrace, her voice hushed, her back to me.
I'm so sorry, Adrian, but there's an emergency with the Duval case. I need to go to the office immediately tonight.
Can't someone else handle it?
I wish. The judge is making a special exception for a filing deadline. I'll make it up to you tomorrow night, I promise.
As she rushed out the door, my investigator's confirmation landed in my inbox. She was heading directly to the courthouse with her attorney. The paperwork, the audacious claim to half of everything I had built, was being processed at that very moment. I sat alone in the cavernous silence of our house, the elaborate dinner outfit suddenly absurd, a costume for a play whose script had been rewritten into a tragedy. Despite my week of meticulous preparation, despite knowing this moment was coming, the finality of her action struck me with an unexpected, visceral force. The formal notification arrived the next morning via courier, a stark white envelope holding the death warrant of my marriage. I ensured the security cameras captured my shocked reaction as I accepted it, my hands betraying no tremor. Inside was the divorce petition, brazenly asserting claims to half of all assets, including my company, citing her substantial contributions to its growth and success. Within hours, Sarah returned home, her demeanor utterly transformed. Gone was the adoring wife, the charming planner of romantic getaways. In her place stood a cool, calculating professional, a brand consultant now managing her most high-value case, the dismantling of my life.
I think we should discuss this civilly. I've arranged for the Greek Isles trip to be canceled.
Why are you doing this?
These things happen. People grow apart. The important thing now is to divide assets fairly and move forward. Yes, fairly. Connecticut law is clear about equitable distribution. My attorneys have prepared a preliminary asset division proposal.
She slid a document across the coffee table, its stark white pages a chilling mirror of the emails I'd found.
You'll see, we're suggesting a straightforward 50-50th split of all marital assets, including Valor Industries.
I took the paper, my hands trembling, not entirely feigned. The document laid out precisely what her emails had promised Mark. Half of everything I had built, including substantial company equity. I'll need time to review this with my attorney.
Of course, take the weekend. But Adrian, protracted legal battles only benefit the attorneys. It would be better for both of us to reach an amicable agreement quickly.
That weekend became a macabre ballet, Sarah alternating between patronizing lectures on divorce proceedings and icy retreats into work calls, while I perfected the tableau of shattered devastation. By Monday morning, the subtle tremor had begun. A call sent Sarah hurtling from the house, her face a mask of sudden urgency, as she sped toward her attorney's office. Hours later, she returned, her complexion ashen, the carefully constructed composure faltering. "Is everything all right?"
There seems to be some confusion about the asset documentation. Nothing serious, just unexpected paperwork.
What she omitted, what she dared not voice, was the unseen earthquake shaking her carefully laid plans. Her legal team had initiated the standard discovery process, only to collide with insurmountable obstacles. On Tuesday, the first visible fissures appeared in her unwavering confidence. A relentless series of urgent meetings with her legal team left her increasingly agitated. Wednesday brought desperate calls to financial analysts, her voice rising in demanding frustration.
What exactly is Valor Industries Berlin?
Our new European headquarters. The board approved it months ago. It's been in all the company newsletters.
And the intellectual property transferal to the Dublin Patent Trust?
That wasn't a transfer. That's where it's always been held since before we met. Sarah, is something wrong with the discovery process?
Just standard information gathering. These corporate structures are quite complex.
They're actually fairly standard for a company of our size. By Friday, exactly 1 week after filing, Sarah's careful plan had begun to publicly unravel. Her legal team requested an emergency conference with my attorneys. They expressed concerns about asset valuation discrepancies. The fortune they thought they could easily claim was proving remarkably difficult to access. The first hint of panic appeared in Sarah's eyes as she paced our home office.
What do you mean premarital? The appreciation occurred during the marriage.
When the call ended, she approached me with a dramatically altered demeanor. The cold professional was gone, replaced by an attempt at the charming wife.
Adrian, I've been thinking. Perhaps we've been hasty about all this.
The divorce filing?
Yes, these things can be filed in the heat of the moment. We have 10 years together. Maybe we should consider counseling. People make mistakes.
Yes, they certainly do. The following week brought Sarah's complete psychological unraveling as the full extent of her miscalculation became clear. Valor Industries' most valuable assets were effectively insulated from her claims through legitimate corporate structures.
This is all perfectly legal. There must be a way to pierce these corporations.
The attorney's response clearly displeased her as she slammed her hand against the wall. Over an elaborate dinner she prepared herself, Sarah launched into a rehearsed speech.
I made a terrible mistake. These divorce proceedings, they're not what I really want.
What do you really want, Sarah? Her hesitation was brief but telling. In that moment of calculation, I saw the truth that had always been there. The reconciliation strategy failed, so she pivoted to intimidation.
You don't want this becoming a media circus. Industry journalists would love to dissect Valor Industries' internal finances.
I've never been afraid of scrutiny, Sarah. My business can withstand it. Can your professional reputation? As a brand consultant who had built her practice on discretion, a high-profile failure would be devastating. I discovered her at 3 a.m. attempting to access accounts associated with our joint properties. Security measures I had implemented prevented her success, but the intention was clear. Her legal team filed an emergency motion claiming I had deliberately moved assets in anticipation of divorce.
The Berlin expansion was approved unanimously by the independent board. All corporate actions followed standard governance procedures.
The judge denied Sarah's emergency motion, dealing another blow to her rapidly disintegrating case. As legal defeats accumulated, Sarah's behavior became increasingly erratic. She alternated between rage and artificial affection.
You knew, didn't you? You knew and you set me up.
Knew what, Sarah? That you were planning to divorce me, that you had investigators hunting for my assets.
How long have you known?
Long enough to understand exactly who you are. The final collapse of Sarah's case came when my legal team submitted evidence of her systematic deception. Her firm partners, concerned about reputation damage, called an emergency meeting. 3 major clients had withdrawn their cases. The luxury brand community now viewed her as an object lesson in failure. Sarah showed up at my office unannounced, causing a scene in the reception area until security was called.
You've destroyed everything I worked for. 10 years of marriage, and this is how you repay my love.
That evening, I found a strange sense of peace settling over me. The woman I had loved had never really existed. Sarah accepted a settlement that recognized my premarital assets, but nothing close to the fortune she had planned. The last time I saw her was at the final settlement signing. She looked older, diminished.
For what it's worth, there were times when it was real for me too.
The sad thing is, I'll never know if that's true, and that's entirely your doing. I walked away without looking back, feeling lighter with each step, shedding the weight of false love. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood at the window of my new penthouse overlooking Central Park. The spring evening bathed the city in golden light, and for the first time in over a year, I felt genuinely at peace. The legal battles were behind me. Valor Industries continued to thrive, our Berlin expansion exceeding revenue projections by 30%. More importantly, I had begun the process of rebuilding my personal life from the ground up. I found a skilled therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma, someone who didn't minimize the psychological impact of discovering a decade-long relationship had been in many ways a calculated deception. Recovery isn't linear, Dr. Evans reminded me during our weekly sessions. Some days you'll feel strong, other days the grief will hit unexpectedly. I would go weeks feeling empowered, then break down in tears when finding an old photograph or receiving a wedding invitation. I built an industrial security company, I told Dr. Evans during one particularly difficult session. My entire career is based on identifying and preventing threats. How did I miss this? Gradually, I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my marriage. Sarah had subtly isolated me from my support network, another red flag I had missed. My parents, now retired and living in Florida, visited monthly. Their steadfast support reminded me that genuine love, without hidden agendas, did exist. I renovated the Connecticut house where Sarah and I had lived, donating most of the furniture and creating an entirely new space that held no memories of our life together. Eventually, I sold it to a young family and bought the Manhattan penthouse, wanting a fresh start in an environment untainted by betrayal. Valor Industries launched a revolutionary manufacturing protocol that earned industry-wide acclaim. We expanded into new markets, hired brilliant young engineers, and continued building something meaningful and lasting. 9 months after the divorce, I established the Zenith Innovation Fund, dedicating $20 million to helping young entrepreneurs achieve financial independence. Financial control is often the invisible leash in toxic relationships, I explained during the fund's launch event. Breaking that leash begins with knowledge. The response was overwhelming. Individuals approached me after each talk, sharing similar experiences or thanking me for making them more aware of potential vulnerabilities. The lessons from my failed marriage crystallized over time into hard-won wisdom. I had ignored early warning signs, rationalizing Sarah's interest in my finances as natural curiosity rather than calculation. As I began cautiously dating again, I found myself drawn to different qualities now. Authenticity, emotional transparency, people whose actions consistently matched their words. Emily, a research scientist I met through a mutual friend, became an unexpected source of healing. Our relationship developed slowly, based on genuine friendship, before evolving into something deeper. Her straightforward nature and complete lack of interest in my financial status were refreshing. For our third date, she took me stargazing on the roof of the university building, bringing homemade sandwiches and thermoses of hot chocolate. I'm not very good at grand gestures, she apologized. I've had enough grand gestures to last a lifetime, I replied. I prefer real. The most surprising outcome of the entire ordeal was my newfound sense of freedom. Having faced my greatest fear, having my trust completely betrayed, I discovered I could survive and eventually thrive again. The experience had stripped away pretense and left me with clearer vision, both personally and professionally. Sarah's attempt to take what I had built had ultimately failed, but her betrayal had taken something irreplaceable, my naive belief in perfect love and happy endings. In its place grew something more valuable, a realistic appreciation for authentic connection, self-reliance, and the understanding that genuine strength comes not from avoiding pain, but from moving through it with integrity. News of Sarah eventually reached me through mutual acquaintances. Her professional rehabilitation had been partial at best. No prestigious firm would hire her after the scandal. forcing her to establish a small private practice handling minor cases. Mark had left her for a hedge fund manager shortly after our divorce was finalized. The villa in Tuscany they had planned to purchase with my money remained a dream unrealized. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, only a distant sadness for the waste of potential. The woman had been brilliant in her field, charming when she chose to be, capable of so much more than deception. Her decision to build her future on betrayal rather than authentic achievement had cost her everything she truly valued: status, recognition, and professional respect. The lesson in her fate was clear. Shortcuts to wealth built on deception eventually collapse. Sustainable success, whether in business or relationships, must be built on genuine value and integrity. Today, as I prepare to take Valor Industries public with a projected valuation of $7 billion, I reflect on the journey that brought me here. The company continues to thrive not because of shortcuts or deception, but because we built something of genuine value, solving real problems with innovative solutions. My approach to life outside of work now mirrors my professional ethos. I prioritize genuine bonds over flawless facades and unvarnished truth over glittering pretense. The profound deception I endured, though initially devastating, ultimately became an essential crucible, forging in me a renewed capacity to discern true intentions, safeguard my well-being, and remain open to authentic relationships, albeit with heightened discernment. If you find yourselves navigating similar trials, remember that even in the deepest shadows, the potential for profound transformation lies hidden. Trust can indeed be reestablished, but with a clearer vision. The sweetest victories are those achieved through honest endeavor, not deceit. And sometimes, the shattering of what you believed you desired simply clears the path for what you genuinely require. Have you ever had to forge a new beginning after being wronged? How did you navigate your path forward? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this narrative resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more insights on building resilience and rediscovering purpose. Thank you for being a part of this journey.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're all about extracting those crucial insights from some truly extraordinary stories. And today, we're diving headfirst into a moment of just shocking discovery. It really feels like something out of a thriller, but it's absolutely real. Picture this. Adrian Vance. He's this brilliant architect of advanced materials, built a massive $750 million fortune. And he finds these hidden dissolution papers from his wife, Sarah, poised to just shatter their 10-year marriage.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that would absolutely devastate most people, right? Send them reeling. But for Adrian, this was actually the start of something else, a total masterclass in counter strategy. His mind, which was already sharp from years of, high stakes industrial strategy, it just pivoted to a new battlefield, a really personal one.
That's a really powerful way to put it. So our mission today is basically to journey inside the mind of this strategic genius. We're going to unpack how he took this incredibly painful betrayal and turned it into a calculated 7-day chess match, all to protect his empire and, maybe just as importantly, his own sanity. And we should mention that fortune, it didn't stop at $750 million. We're talking about an estimated $2.5 billion now. So, yeah, we'll explore his pretty humble beginnings, his meteoric rise, the subtle red flags he maybe should have seen in the marriage.
The ones he missed initially.
Exactly. Then the chilling details of his wife's, frankly, meticulously planned betrayal. And then the really brilliant counter strategy he put into play. Okay, so let's lay the groundwork here. Let's talk about the setup. Adrian Vance. He's our central figure, 40 years old, a true visionary in advanced materials. The sources actually describe his mind as being built for foresight. Built this huge fortune, starting at $750 million, now past $2.5 billion, and then bam! His sort of gilded cage marriage, 10 years, it shatters, not with a huge fight, but like you said, a quiet click, his wife Sarah's tablet.
Yeah, that click revealed the dissolution papers, and not just that, but a global asset hunt was already underway. She was way ahead, or so she thought. Sarah, she was a high-end brand consultant, and it turns out she had, gravely misjudged him massively.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How his professional skills kind of kicked in, even before he consciously knew the full extent of the crisis.
Absolutely. His success wasn't luck. It was forged in, tough times. He came from Denver, humble background, sole son of educators. His father apparently told him, "Your mind is the only asset no one can ever seize." That really stuck with him.
You could see how.
Yeah, and he had this early knack for physics, engineering, even built a makeshift lab in their shed. Classic innovator story.
Took that brain power straight to Caltech,
Yeah.
right? Dual degrees, engineering and business. Turned down jobs from the big guys.
He did. Then at 23, he starts Valor Industries. From his parents' basement, no less. With a $40,000 loan from their retirement savings, that's pressure.
Wow. Talk about betting on yourself. And those first few years were brutal, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. 16, 18-hour days, barely eating, constant rejection, including, apparently, some dismissive female VCs asking him where his senior engineer was. He was the senior engineer, the visionary.
Ouch. How do you think going through that really tough period, how did that prepare him for this personal fight later on?
Oh, it's absolutely critical. That period forged this incredible resilience in him, right?
Yeah.
The strategic patience. He learned to spot vulnerabilities in supply chains, markets.
Or relationships.
Exactly, and then figure out how to methodically address them. The turning point for Valor, remember, was that huge automotive company crisis. Supply chain disruption, billions lost. Suddenly, Adrian's innovative protocol, the one everyone ignored, it became the industry's lifeline, almost overnight.
And Valor just exploded.
Totally. 3 employees to 200 in 18 months. By his 30th birthday, $750 million valuation. He wasn't just building stuff, he was adapting, conquering under huge pressure, skills that would prove, well, pretty vital.
Okay, so he's already this tech influential featured in magazines when you meet Sarah. 7 years into Valor's rise, at a gallery opening.
Right, and she introduces herself, brand consultant, seems interested in his work, sustainable innovation. Not my balance sheet, she apparently said.
And her line was, I'd rather hear about yours that actually succeeded. That charmed him.
Seems like it. The courtship was fast, like really fast. Proposed 5 months later, hot air balloon over San Francisco, the whole deal.
And she seemed perfect on paper.
Right.
Intelligent, driven, not starstruck by his money, polished but grounded.
Exactly. Which raises that big question, doesn't it? How do really smart people miss these clear warning signs in their personal lives when they're so sharp professionally?
It's the $1 million question, or in this case, the $1 billion question.
It really is. It's a classic blind spot, though. Adrian probably rationalized those imperceptible whispers, her quiet focus on his wealth, tracking stocks, highlighting asset names, even steering him towards obscure art investments that, looking back, seemed designed to hide financial trails. He likely just wrote it off as professional curiosity, part of her job, maybe.
Yeah, because financial talk is normal in his world. He probably didn't question the intent behind it. He saw the image he wanted, right? This polished, driven partner.
Precisely. And outwardly, they looked like the perfect power couple, hosting dinners, donating to charity, attending galas. All that stuff.
But underneath,
an emotional chasm widened, as the sources put it. And in the last year before the discovery, Sarah's behavior got less subtle. Phone calls ending abruptly, late nights, weekend workshops she couldn't really explain.
And the password appearing on her personal tablet, that's a big one.
Huge. Yet, Adrian, he was still trying to salvage things. Planning trips, suggesting therapy, clinging to her excuses like this Duval account keeping her so busy.
He was desperately planning their 10th anniversary, trying to fix a relationship that, for her, was already just a financial endgame.
It's chilling, really.
Okay, so this brings us to the moment it all comes crashing down. Sarah leaves for what she says is an urgent 3-day business trip to Paris.
Which, we find out later, was actually a lavish getaway with her assistant, Mark, in Monaco, not Paris.
Right. So Adrian's home alone, goes to the home office, maybe to finalize those anniversary plans you mentioned. And Sarah, she forgot to log out of her email.
Just incredible carelessness, or maybe arrogance, thinking she wouldn't get caught.
Could be. His eyes land on a subject line. Monaco Asset Verification Valor Holdings.
Boom. He clicks. It's from a PI firm in Monaco, described as a notorious haven for tracking hidden wealth. And there's this brief clinical report attached just stating they're monitoring transfers from primary accounts to offshore entities. Cold, efficient, devastating.
And the attachment itself. Wow. A meticulous, chilling breakdown of his business holdings, confidential investments, even vulnerability analyses of his corporate structure.
She wasn't just looking for money, she was analyzing how to break his company apart to get it.
Then more emails between Sarah and her divorce lawyers, discussing strategies, precedents for dividing assets.
And the real gut punch, as the source calls it, an email from a colleague asking Sarah, timeline, her reply, cold as ice. After anniversary trip, paperwork ready to file once offshore search completes.
Wow. But it gets worse somehow.
Oh, it does. The emails between Sarah and Mark, the assistant, the guy Adrian liked.
What did they say?
Sarah writes, he still suspects nothing. Then confirms the anniversary cruise plan private yacht, Greek Isles. We'll tell him about us after filing, once assets are secured.
Unbelievable. Using the anniversary trip as the moment to strike.
And Mark's reply, pure venom. Can't wait to see his face when he realizes he's funded our future together. That villa in Tuscany is getting closer every day.
Funded their future. It just reveals the absolute calculation behind it all. The contempt, really.
Exactly. And the final piece, the drafted divorce petition. Saved right there on the desktop.
Created 3 months earlier.
Yep. Set to be filed a week after that anniversary trip, and the demands were audacious, claiming half his company, citing her substantial contribution to its growth.
Which was completely fabricated. She never worked at Valor.
Never. So what do you think hit him hardest? Psychologically? Was it the affair, asset hunting, or just the sheer cold planning of it all?
That's a tough question. I mean, the affair's a deep wound, obviously.
Right. But I suspect for someone like Adrian, whose life is built on structure, foresight, logic, the methodical, premeditated nature of the betrayal was probably the most crushing blow.
Yeah.
His first reaction was pure agony, right? Sources say he was sobbing, curled up on the bathroom floor, waves of self-reproach, humiliation.
Yeah, wandering the house, every memory suddenly poisoned. Was any of it real? Was he just a 10-year investment strategy? That kind of doubt is corrosive.
Absolutely. For someone who builds things, finding out your foundation might be entirely fake. That's profoundly destabilizing.
But then something shifted. By morning, a change, an irreversible metamorphosis.
Right. The broken man was gone, utterly erased, replaced by someone colder, sharper, incredibly focused.
His analytical mind, the one honed in business battles, just reoriented, new target, this personal battlefield.
And Sarah's big mistake, her monumental miscalculation, was thinking she knew everything. She totally underestimated his intellect, didn't she? And that basic primal instinct for self-preservation.
He went from victim to strategist incredibly fast.
Almost instantly.
So the counter strategy begins. First step, assemble the team. His silent warriors.
Right. He immediately calls Liam. Childhood friend, loyal COO of Valor, needs absolute discretion.
And Liam confirms the worst, doesn't he? Sarah had been making backdoor inquiries about Monaco Swiss accounts 3 months ago.
And worse, unusual access to Adrian's company email traced back to his home network, spyware.
Wow. So Liam had already quietly replaced Adrian's work laptop and phone. Smart move.
Very smart. Liam was already protecting him, maybe without even knowing the full picture yet. This wasn't just divorce prep. Adrian realized it was corporate espionage.
The stakes just went way up.
Way up. So after 4 intense hours, they head to a clandestine lawyer's office. An elite team comes together. Eleanor Hayes, described as New York's sharpest divorce attorney. Interestingly, Sarah had apparently considered her but dismissed her as too aggressive.
Irony. Who else?
David Grant, his personal financial advisor, and Anya Sharma, a digital forensics expert from Valor's own security division. Quick, precise team building. That's strategy right there.
Definitely. When you're under attack, bring in the specialists fast.
Exactly. And the plan was clear. Protect the assets, but do it quietly. Any big, obvious move would tip Sarah off that he knew.
And the legal side. Eleanor Hayes laid it out.
Yep. Connecticut's an equitable distribution state, not community property. Key difference. Assets owned before marriage stay separate as long as they weren't commingled.
And Valor Industries itself.
Safe. Sarah never worked there, never got shares. It was always his, predating the marriage in its significant growth phase.
David, the financial advisor, pointed out other advantages too, right? Corporate structure.
Mm-hmm. Things like a patent holding company in Dublin that was set up before he even met Sarah, and the planned Berlin expansion that provided a legitimate reason for moving assets later.
And Anya, the forensics expert, what was her finding?
Grim confirmation. Sophisticated spyware, professionally installed on their home devices. Your home is almost certainly bugged, she told him.
Chilling. So what was the counter move there?
Brilliant, actually. Feed the spyware selective, misleading information. Use the bugged home office as a decoy while all the real planning happens on secure channels, different locations.
A digital ghost dance.
Yeah.
Using her own surveillance against her. Clever.
Very. So began the 7-day chess match. A masterclass in strategic defense. Let's walk through it day by day, because this is where the real tactical genius shows.
Okay, day 1. Sarah's flying off to Monaco with Mark, thinking she's pulling a fast one. What does Adrian do?
Convenes an emergency Valor board meeting. cites a fabricated but plausible competitive threat, gets approval to accelerate the Berlin expansion plan, a plan that already existed, mind you.
Ah, so it looks totally legit.
Perfectly legit. $75 million in corporate assets start flowing to the new Berlin entity, all documented for business purposes that clearly predate any knowledge of her divorce plot.
And meanwhile, the bugged home office.
Used as simulated command central. Looks like he's working frantically from home, feeding the spyware what they want it to see. Real planning, secure devices, shifting locations. The Berlin gamut, indeed.
That's impressive. What about day 2?
Focus shifts to the crown jewels, his intellectual property. The legal team works like crazy to strengthen the documentation, proving all the core IP belongs to that Dublin patent trust.
The one set up 4 years before he met Sarah.
Exactly. Rock solid premarital asset. And while this is happening, Adrian's on the phone with Sarah, putting on a show, manufactured excitement about their upcoming anniversary, creating that smokescreen.
Ah, the mental fortitude that must have taken. Okay, day 3.
This was about unearthing the foundation. They meticulously documented the growth of his premarital assets, investment appreciation, property value increases, reinvestments. The key was showing that the $750 million valuation wasn't just a number, but the result of a natural, meticulously documented evolution of assets he brought into the marriage as entirely separate property.
So proving its origins and growth were independent of her.
Precisely. And all the while, Adrian's continuing the grotesque preparations for the anniversary trip he knows is a setup. It really highlights the need for solid, proactive financial documentation, doesn't it? Even your own history.
Absolutely. Don't wait for the challenge. Build the defense beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay, day 4.
Shielding the sanctuaries. This was about the vacation properties, Verbier, Nantucket, Amalfi Coast, all acquired with premarital funds. They documented every single improvement paid for exclusively from his separate accounts, attributing any appreciation to those separate investments.
Leaving no room for her to claim marital funds contributed significantly.
Exactly. And they found out Sarah had photographed some old financial statements from his home office safe, but they weren't the main comprehensive copies. Shows the need for layered security, physical and digital.
Good point. Day 5.
Fortifying the trusts. Reviewing the premarital tax trusts, making sure they were absolutely ironclad against any claims. Timing was key here. They were well established before the marriage.
No contributions during the marriage.
None that would give her a claim. Meanwhile, his PI reports Sarah's extending her business trip in Monaco. Marks out shopping for luxury goods.
Rubbing salt in the wound. What's the big takeaway on trusts here?
Simple principle. Legal structures set up before a relationship, cleanly separating assets, are incredibly powerful shields. Adrian's foresight years earlier was paying off massively.
Makes sense. Day 6 sounds tough. The sacred and the sentimental.
Yeah, emotionally hard, but legally necessary. Inventoried family heirlooms, documented gifts, moved irreplaceable things like his grandfather's watch to a secure, secret location.
Protecting what money can't replace.
Right. And he found Sarah's old love letters from their early days, labeled them evidence of intent. Chilling, but potentially useful to show the calculated nature of her actions later.
Wow, okay, final day. Day 7.
The ironclad net. This day was all about documentation. Comprehensive, unassailable records for every single move made that week. Every transaction, every corporate decision, every asset protection step, backed up with exhaustive, unimpeachable justifications that had nothing to do with the divorce. Purely business reasons.
So everything looked like standard practice.
Exactly. As Eleanor Hayes put it, every single step we've taken is defensible as standard business practice or prudent management of separate property. It created an impenetrable wall.
What was Adrian's mindset through all this? He must have been running on fumes, but also something else.
Cold, focused determination. He apparently thought, Sarah thinks she's been playing checkers. She's about to discover I've actually been playing three-dimensional chess all along. He'd turned that raw pain into pure strategy.
Every move calculated, defensible, making it impossible for her to cry foul later. That's the core of the defense.
It really is. Meticulous preparation, absolute integrity in the documented actions.
Okay, so 7 days are up. Sarah comes back from Monaco, radiating false serenity.
Gives Adrian an expensive scarf. He plays along, flawless mimicry of affection. She spins this whole fabricated story about Paris.
And then Adrian drops his line. I've been busy with anniversary plans myself. I think you'll be really surprised. The tension must have been insane.
Off the charts. Then Sarah reveals her surprise. I've booked us a second honeymoon in the Greek Isles.
The exact trip from the emails, the one where she planned to serve him papers in international waters.
Yep. Adrian feigns excitement, knows exactly what it means. For the next 3 days, it's this grotesque, silent dance. He plays along. She makes mysterious phone calls, obviously to her lawyer. She thinks she's closing the trap.
Then comes the serpent strike, the night before their anniversary dinner.
Sarah claims there's an emergency with the Duval case, rushes off to the office. But Adrian's PI confirms she's heading straight to the courthouse with her attorney.
The paperwork's being filed. It's happening.
It is. The formal notification arrives by courier the next morning. Adrian makes sure the security cameras capture his shocked reaction.
Yeah.
Pure performance.
Brilliant. And then Sarah returns.
Transformed. Cool. Calculating professional now. Proposes a civil discussion, hands him a document.
The one demanding a 50-50 split, including Valor Industries.
That's the one. Adrian plays his part, whispers defiance. I'll need time to review this with my attorney. He lets her think he's the emotional fool she expected, someone who'll crumble.
But he's not stalling. He's letting her walk right into the meticulously prepared defense.
Exactly. And the unraveling begins almost immediately. Monday morning, Sarah's lawyers call his team. There's confusion about the asset documentation. The Monaco PI reports aren't matching reality.
Because Adrian had already moved assets legitimately before she filed.
Precisely. By Tuesday, Wednesday, Sarah's getting agitated. Relentless meetings. She starts demanding answers from Adrian directly. What exactly is Valor Industries Berlin? What about the IP transfer to Dublin?
And Adrian's response.
Calmly explains they were established or planned long before any of this. Totally legitimate business moves. You can just feel the ground shifting under her feet. The predator becomes the prey.
What happens when that kind of detailed deception hits a wall it wasn't expecting?
The whole narrative fractures. Right. Her perfect intelligence, the foundation of her plan, is suddenly wrong, outdated, worthless.
So by Friday, just 1 week after she filed.
Her legal team requests an emergency conference. Big red flag. Asset valuation discrepancies. Sarah's whole demeanor changes. Suddenly, she's trying reconciliation.
Perhaps we've been hasty. Maybe we should consider counseling.
Textbook desperation. Adrian sees right through it. The power dynamic has completely flipped. Her strategy failed, so now she's trying emotional manipulation. Clear sign she's losing.
And her attempts just keep failing, right?
Yeah.
The reconciliation dinner.
Falls flat, elaborate dinner, rehearsed speech, tears. Adrian just asks, what do you really want, Sarah? He sees it's not about the marriage, it's about the money she's losing.
Then intimidation.
Threats.
Tried that too. Prolonged litigation, leaking company secrets. Adrian's calm reply basically shut her down. My business can withstand it. Can your professional reputation? Oof. That hit home for a brand consultant built on discretion. She even tried accessing joint accounts.
At 3 a.m. But Adrian's team had already put security measures in place. Locked.
And her final legal move backfired. Spectacular.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Filed an emergency motion claiming he moved assets because of the divorce plan. Adrian's lawyers just calmly presented the evidence. Board minutes, business plans, market analyses, all dating back 18 months, proving legitimate business purposes.
Judge denied the motion.
Slam dunk. It's a huge lesson. Legitimacy, backed by meticulous proof, beats malicious claims every time, especially when you've laid the groundwork like Adrian did.
So, with her legal options crumbling, Sarah gets erratic. Volatile.
Yeah, leading to that confrontation where she accuses him. You knew, didn't you? You set me up.
And Adrian just lays it all out.
Yeah.
Calmly.
Incredibly calmly. Knew what, Sarah? That you were planning to divorce me, hunting my assets, having an affair with Mark while plotting to take half my company.
Oof. Keep going.
Or perhaps you mean I knew that you installed spyware on my devices and bugs in our home. The shock on her face was apparently genuine. She had no idea he knew about that.
That must have been satisfying. Cathartic, at least.
You'd have to think so. The moment of total, undeniable exposure. After that, it was pretty much over.
His legal team submitted the evidence. The emails, the PI report.
Everything. Her case basically collapsed. It shifted from her trying to get his assets to her defending herself against professional misconduct claims. Her own firm got nervous, asked her to take leave. Clients started pulling out.
And she caused a scene at his office.
Yeah, shouting, "You've destroyed everything!" But really, her own actions destroyed her. Adrian just defended himself brilliantly.
That evening, back in the home office where it all started, he felt peace.
A strange sense of peace. Yeah. The realization hit him. The woman I had loved had never really existed. The pain was still there, but it was different. A duller ache. Acceptance.
He used his business skills for personal defense, and it worked. Painful validation, but validation nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So the settlement comes quickly after that, 1 month after she filed.
And Sarah accepted a fair portion of the assets they jointly acquired during the marriage, but nothing, absolutely nothing, close to the fortune she'd planned on.
Her career.
In tatters. The affair with Mark fizzled out once the money prospects died. She ended up relocating to Chicago, trying to rebuild.
Does he see each other again?
Just at the settlement signing, she looked older, diminished, apparently. Said something like, "For what it's worth, there were times when it was real for me, too."
And Adrian's reply.
Perfect. The sad thing is, I'll never know if that's true, and that's entirely your doing. Then he just walked away. Felt lighter.
Wow, did he ever hear about her later?
Just through mutual acquaintances. Professional recovery was slow, maybe partial. No big firm would touch her. Mark was long gone. No Tuscany villa. Adrian felt no satisfaction, just sadness at the waist. The lesson stuck. Deception doesn't pay long term.
So what about Adrian's recovery? How did he move forward?
It was a real journey. 6 months later, he's in a new penthouse overlooking Central Park. A fresh start. Therapy was key. Saw a specialist in betrayal trauma, Dr. Evans, who gave him that great insight. Recovery isn't linear. Professionally, you expect threats. Personally, you expected love. Fundamentally different mindsets.
That distinction seems crucial for someone like him, right? His business brain versus his personal heart.
Totally vital. His business mind was wired for risk, for skepticism. Personally, he'd allowed vulnerability, assumed trust. Therapy helped him bridge that, not by becoming cynical, but by applying realistic discernment everywhere.
He reconnected with people too.
Yeah, friends he'd neglected. His college roommate, Ben. His parents a reminder that real love without agendas exists. Sold the Connecticut house. Fully embraced the fresh start in Manhattan. And professionally. Valor Industries.
Thrived. That Berlin expansion.
Yeah.
Exceeded projections by 30%. His professional life really mirrored his personal healing. Things were back on solid ground.
And this is really interesting, especially for our listeners. He set up the Zenith Innovation Fund, $20 million.
What's the fund's focus?
Helping young entrepreneurs achieve financial independence, but also teaching them about financial self-protection within relationships. He started speaking publicly about his experience. Terrifying at first, he said, but ultimately healing.
Wow. Turning his pain into a positive lesson for others. That's powerful.
It really is. It shows how the lessons crystallized. He admitted he'd ignored early signs, rationalized her financial interest, believed the image over the inconsistencies.
Trusted without verifying the opposite of his business approach.
Exactly. Sacrificed authentic connection for that polished facsimile of love. Realized Sarah just mirrored what he wanted, missing the genuine messiness of real intimacy. His new mantra, perfect isn't real.
That's a huge shift. From idealism to realism, but like you said, without cynicism.
Right. And when he started dating again, cautiously, he met Emily, a research scientist.
What drew him to her?
Authenticity. Transparency. Her actions matched her words. And crucially, she seemed completely uninterested in his money. That was refreshing.
The third date sounds telling. Stargazing with homemade sandwiches.
Yeah. His reaction, I've had enough grand gestures. I prefer real. He approached it differently. Balanced openness with caution, kept financial boundaries, but allowed emotional vulnerability. Seems like he found that genuine connection.
And the overall outcome for him.
Newfound freedom, really. He faced his absolute worst fear, survived and actually thrived, stripped away all the pretense, clearer vision, that naive belief in perfect love, gone. Replaced by a realistic appreciation for authentic connection, self-reliance, and knowing that real strength isn't about avoiding pain, but moving through it with integrity.
And Valor Industries.
Preparing to go public. Projected valuation, $7 billion. Built on genuine value, not deception. His life, personal and professional, now aligns with his core ethos. Prioritize genuine bonds over flawless facades. Truth over pretense.
That profound deception, it sounds like it became an essential crucible for him. Forged real discernment.
Absolutely.
So wrapping this up, what does this incredible story mean for you listening right now? Well, Adrian Vance's experience, it really showcases the power of strategic thinking, even in the face of just devastating personal crises. It underscores how vital it is to recognize red flags, even tiny ones, and it highlights that huge difference between perceived perfection, that shiny exterior, and genuine, sometimes messy, authenticity in relationships.
Yeah, and maybe the biggest takeaway, connecting it to the bigger picture, is this idea is sometimes the shattering of what you believed you desired simply clears the path for what you genuinely require. It makes you think, doesn't it, about times in your own life, maybe a difficult ending that unexpectedly opened a door to a truer beginning. How did you navigate that? What strengths did you find in yourself that maybe you didn't even know you had? Something to reflect on.